What's going on, guys? It's Rob from Heroes Avenue. Happy Friday. I hope you guys are all doing well out there. In this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about the GQ interview with Robert Pattinson that has the whole internet in a frenzy. And it's a topic I couldn't leave alone because Darren, of course, started this topic in the last video, but I have some different opinions on it. And I think in this video, what I'm going to talk about is why I think a lot of us have been trolled, and also why Robert Pattinson in some ways is being brutally honest, and why I'm not so worried about the Batman right now. And of course, if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure to give this video a like if you do enjoy it. But let's go ahead and talk about this. So if you are unfamiliar with what's going on, Robert Pattinson did a GQ interview in which he talked about a number of topics, and in the interview you get a real sense of what Robert Pattinson is as a person. But a lot of people took certain quotes from this interview and read them alone in isolation without taking the context of the interview as well as some of his past behavior into context, and they were probably understandably outraged. And a lot of people on YouTube right now are talking about the quotes, and especially John Campia's reaction to his lack of training for the Batman role.
And all they are asking him to do is pick up a fucking dumbbell.
We got to take in context Robert Pattinson as a person, and if you read through the whole interview, it is quite a lengthy one. You kind of get a sense of how much he might be bullshitting us and how much he might be trolling us, and you get that sense because of how the interview describes his behavior, as well as some of the quotes from directors he's worked with, and we'll talk about some of those in a second. With this interview, he was able to take a bunch of pictures. I do believe he took pictures of himself for this GQ interview, and you get a sense of how bizarre this guy is. And of course, looking at these pictures itself, it doesn't scream to you Bruce Wayne or Batman, but in his defense, you got to look at the guy's work and how much he has earned the respect of a lot of these big-time directors and people in Hollywood, and especially in his latest role. So don't go judging this guy by his pictures or by his performance in Twilight, because this guy is an A-class actor. So let's go ahead and first talk about the quotes that really have people in an uproar. So here's what he had to say about training. The film studio hired a trainer who left Pattinson with a Bosu ball, a single weight, and a sincere plea to use both. But right now he says he's ignoring her. I think if you're working out all the time, you're part of the problem, he says, sighing. By you, he means other actors. You set a precedent no one was doing in the 70s, even James Dean. He wasn't exactly ripped. He says back when he was a star of the Twilight franchise, the one time they told me to take off my shirt, or I think they told me to put it right back on again. But Batman is Batman. Pattinson called another actor on the film, Zoe Kravitz, the other day, and she said she was exercising 5 days a week during their exile from set. Pattinson, well, literally, I'm just barely doing anything, he says, sighing again. So there was the quote that Darren talked about in our last video, and of course, just to chime in on that quote a little bit, and I apologize if I read some of it wrong, I don't have my glasses on. I could understand, and I've said this in previous videos, that I don't think this guy is, he's not in the best shape. He's not in the most ideal Batman shape, but I don't think he needs to be for the particular role. We've already seen images of him in the Batsuit, if that is him in the Batsuit, next to the Batmobile, and he looks fine. I do think that this movie's gonna not be as action heavy as we've seen in Batman v Superman, and his character may not need him to be. But I do prefer actors to be in great shape for these roles, especially what we've gotten out of the superheroes in this day and age, right? The actors and their commitment to looking like the part as well. Not that is the whole story, but Zoe Kravitz is definitely showing her commitment to the role. And if you just go ahead and look at, you could probably think of people like Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Gal Gadot. All these actors are really committed to looking the part, and it's a little disheartening to hear this quote alone, and what Robert Pattinson has to say about working out, and the fact that he has a Bosu ball on a single weight. It doesn't tell me that it tells me that his trainer who left him these things realizes that he doesn't like working out at all. He just doesn't like working out, and that's okay. And this is coming from a fitness trainer. It's okay. Not a lot of people love working out. And the fact that he only got one Bosu ball and a weight, shows to me that he's probably really getting some Weenie Hut Jr. type workouts. Like, they are not the hardest workouts in the world, and he doesn't even want to do them. And seeing the images from his latest jog told me that, yeah, he's not really prioritizing bulking up, which is fine. You know, obviously the acting part of it comes first, the story of the movie comes first. But yeah, this is what people were hyper focused on and really upset about. But you go ahead and dig deeper into this interview and you get a sense that, hey man, this guy might be messing with the actual interviewer in what he's saying. And Robert Pattinson has had behavior in the past in which he has trolled interviewers. You know, I've seen clips online. You see him trolling Twilight all the time. It's actually kind of in his nature to do so. So to take this at face value, I actually do think he probably isn't really working out right now. But at the same time, the way he's expressing himself is not really it's not really representative of how committed he is to role, because I do think he is committed. Now here's a quote from a director, Robert Eggers, who has directed movies like The Witch, and the latest movie was The Lighthouse, which starred William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. A movie that isn't for everybody, admittedly, but if you're interested in some great acting and a descent into madness type story, I think you might enjoy it. But here's what Robert Eggers, the director of those two movies, had to say about Robert Pattinson. Robert Eggers, who directed Pattinson in last year's The Lighthouse, in which Pattinson plays a man driven to insanity and even homicide by isolation and loneliness, why he cast Pattinson in this movie. Well, Eggers says from his own solitude in Belfast, that paranoid quality about Rob that you kind of feel in his everyday life, I think is why Josh and Benny wanted him in Good Time, and why I thought that he made a lot of sense in The Lighthouse. Although he's good enough that he can transform, but I think that paranoid quality is something that is special for him. So Robert Eggers describes Pattinson as having a paranoid quality, which is probably a good characteristic for playing the Batman. But interestingly enough, when you go on through this interview in GQ, the interviewer talks about how he's not sure if Robert Pattinson is BSing him at some points, and Christopher Nolan had something interesting to say about this. The interesting thing with Rob is he's slightly fucking with you, Nolan says, laughing a reserved English laugh, but he's also being disarmingly honest. It's sort of both things at once. When you see the film, you'll understand. Rob's read on the script was extremely acute, but he also understood the ambiguities of the film and the possibilities that spin off of the mind around the story. And so both things are true. He's fucking with you because he had a complete grasp of the script, but a complete grasp of the script in the case of Tenet is one that understands and acknowledges the need for this film to live on in the audience's mind and suggest possibilities in the audience's mind. And he was very much a partner in crime with that. So in this particular quote, Christopher Nolan's talking about the fact that the interviewer says, hey, Robert Pattinson can't even remember parts of Tenet, and he can't really describe what the movie is about. And again, if you read the article, you'll see what I'm talking about. Robert Pattinson talks like he's on some drugs, and he doesn't remember what this movie's about to the interviewer. And when Christopher Nolan says, the interesting thing is he's slightly fucking with you, I think that's how you got to take this interview. You got to take this interview with a huge grain of salt. The fact that Robert Pattinson is probably messing with you right now, and it's actually pretty hilarious when you look at it in that sense. Here's another quote in regards to the Batman. GQ, can I ask why the Batman is something you wanted to do? I can think of a lot of reasons to want to do it, but I can also frankly think of a lot of reasons not to want to do it. Pattinson, what are the reasons not to do it? He laughs. Well, you just starred in a Christopher Nolan film. Nolan has already made 3 iconic Batman films. Also, I think of you as being a pretty specific actor, and Batman is as much of an archetype as a character to be played. Here's what Robert Pattinson says. I think sometimes the downsides, which I've definitely thought about, the downsides kind of seem like upsides. I kind of like the fact that not only there are very well done versions of the character, which seem pretty definitive, but I was thinking that there are multiple definitive playings of the character. I was watching the making of Batman and Robin the other day, and even then, George Clooney was saying that he was worried about the fact that it's sort of been done, that a lot of the ground you should cover with the character has already been covered, and that's in 96, 97. Interviewer says, yeah, 97. And then there's Christian Bale and Ben Affleck's one, and I was thinking it's fun when more and more ground has been covered, like, where's the gap? You've seen this sort of lighter version, you've seen a kind of jaded version, a kind of more animalistic version, and the puzzle of it becomes quite satisfying to think, where's my opening? And also, do I have anything inside me which would work if I could do it? And then also, it's a legacy part, right? I like that. There's so few things where people passionately care about it before it's even happened. You can almost feel that pushback of anticipation, and so it kind of energizes you a bit. It's different from when you are doing a part and there's a possibility that no one will even see it, right? In some ways, I don't know, it makes you feel kind of spicy. Laughs. So there's the last quote that has to do with the Batman, and I love this quote because, you know, you could see the fact that he's not really training himself physically in the ways that a lot of fans would like, though some fans, it's not so important, but he definitely is contemplating his actual portrayal of the role and how he can differentiate himself from the previous versions, and he kind of relishes the fact that, hey, it's been done before. That is actually a challenge. Where could he fit it in? He's anticipating the fact that this movie is definitely going to be seen, unlike some of his other films. He knows this movie is going to be seen, and he knows that he has to make this role his own, and he looks at it as a challenge, which is always a good thing. And again, I have to remind you guys, you need to watch some of his latest work to appreciate the actor he is. Again, take a look at some of his interviews. We know he's kind of trolling at points. And in this way, it's like he knew the internet was going to react this way. And in some ways, maybe it's good publicity for the Batman film. It's definitely keeping the internet talking about this film, which is not even filming right now, which is kind of crazy. So in some ways, it's a good thing that he did this interview. Whether or not you guys disagree with his physicality for the film and the way he should be training, you all know that you're going to watch it. So I think a lot of us are going to be pleasantly surprised by it, you know, because a lot of the actors surrounding this movie have already talked about how amazing the script is and what a great story that Matt Reeves wrote. So to see Robert Pattinson play off the characters, you know, and adapt the script that Matt Reeves has written, I think is still all really exciting. What do you guys think? I do think Robert Pattinson is being honest when he says he's not really training during the quarantine. You know, things can be helped with, you know, with suits, with angles, with lighting. You know, when he puts on a bat suit, we probably won't really be able to tell how skinny he is. I know this is a divisive film already, and I know some of the stories coming out are really having people become hesitant about the movie, but to me, I'm incredibly excited. Let me know what you guys think about this movie in the comments down below. Give this video a like if you did enjoy the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And guys, thank you for commenting in. I plan to do reading the comments video soon. I am reading all your comments, but with the baby, I'm still finding, and me going back to work, I'm finding a lack of time to being able to respond to every single one of them. But we'll be doing reading the comments soon. Stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Peace.